What's up guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about personal development for INFJs and how to create an epic life on your terms. Today we're talking about INFJ, the outsider. We all know INFJs are considered outsiders. Most of us feel like we're the odd one out. This is not something new. But I honestly believe that it's so much more than just that we don't fit in. It has that much more to do with the fact that we do know what's going on in society. And that is because of our extroverted feeling. We have a sense of what is the norm. We have a sense of what is wanted. And because we're so aware of it, we also see the discrepancy between who we are and what society honestly wants from us. So today we're going to tackle this topic because I believe we can change the entire narrative. I'm not here to tell you you're not an outsider because you are. It's more about embracing that. But then it's about seeing that we can connect through that on a level we never thought possible. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then work with me privately or join the bootcamp waiting list. Pre-admission starts June 27. All the information you find below. So this has been something I've been thinking about specifically the last weeks, because for the first time I sort of saw Instagram accounts, I saw old friends of mine, I saw more of this is what society wants us to look like. It happened just by accident. I haven't looked at those accounts. All of these things that are not in my world haven't been on my radar for such a long time. But once they popped up, I recognized and realized, yes, this is what I always thought I had to be. This is what I always wanted to look like or wanted to act like, because this is what is accepted. If you look at movies, for example, teenage high school movies, where popularity is at an all-time high. It's always the same kind of characters, it's always the same kind of narrative, and this is what is considered the cool thing. And so we look at ourselves and think, well, we're not that. But you know what? Neither are 99% of the people around you. Still, they don't feel like outsiders. They don't act like outsiders. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, they aren't outsiders. So what is the difference? Yes, you might say INFJ is just 1%. We are particular. But if you look at all the people around you, look at your neighbor, look at somebody that you know back from high school, look at somebody that you're working with. We're all so unique. Other people might be very loud or they have characteristics that are not commonly seen. But they themselves, they wouldn't consider themselves outsiders. They wouldn't put themselves out of the box. Because if you look at all of those groups in your life, it's not that you want to be part of those groups and they just don't accept you. More often than not, you see those groups, you see what they're doing, and you feel like, I don't want to be part of that. That is not, first off, the thing that looks cool. They just pretend to be like this, or they have absolutely nothing to do with that thing that I think would be the ideal version of life, and their life seems really boring. I don't want to be part of that. So if you think about it, it's not that you're an outsider to something that actually happens in society and then you feel, oh, I want to be part of that. I want to be accepted for who I am and then I want to have all this fun. It's more that you feel like that thing that you would see as this perfect outcome for you, it doesn't exist. And here we come to extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling, it's all about understanding how society works. It's very similar to extroverted thinking. So hold on, let me explain this a little bit. Extroverted thinking is about going and following the rules of a logic that all people understand, or majority of people that live by TE. FE, so extroverted feeling, is similar to this. But it's not about those rules of logic, it's about those rules of what is accepted. It's about those rules about what is wanted, what is popular, what is considered great. And because we have such a great understanding of this, we're that much more aware that we're not that there's a discrepancy between who we are and what that norm looks like. But what we totally misunderstand is that this norm is totally set up. It doesn't represent what we see in the real world. It doesn't represent our neighbors, the people we work with, or any kind of groups that we know. They might feel like they're special or they have their own little club, but most of the time, even if you want to be part of that, ask yourself, is it really because you have this feeling of, oh, I'm not being accepted or I'm not being tolerated or appreciated? Or is it because you feel like that group, that's something that will energize me, that will make me feel great? And I believe in 95% of the cases, it's the first one. And so I was in situations like this. I felt like there's nothing outside that I want, but what did I want? I wanted a social group that made me feel excited about life. I wanted a social group that could understand my thoughts and my feelings, where I would feel appreciated for who I am. That's what I dreamed about. I dreamed about having an occupation that fulfills me, to be successful in a way how I want to show up, so people see me for what I can offer. I wanted to have great friends and great relationships, be financially independent and secure, and the list goes on and on. But the mistake I made, and the mistake so many INFJs make, and I see this over and over again through the boot camp, through my one-on-one clients, is that we feel it has to be like that image we always look at. We see that image of what is presented to us. Yes, it is of course different how I perceive this than how you perceive it. It's not like this common one thing, but there's still an atmosphere going on. And we do know how that atmosphere feels like now in comparison to, let's say, 5 years ago. And then we see this image and we say to ourselves, in order for me to experience all those emotions I want to have, in order to be happy and fulfilled, I have to be part of that group, of that society, of all of those things happening, and that will make me happy. And if I'm not able to live up to that, if I'm not able to play my part and be accepted by this society, then I will never have those emotions that I want. But again, this is just an image. It's not something that exists right here, right now. I mean, how many of you have been in a situation where you felt like, oh, I actually could play this part. I could pretend I'm like this perfect image, but it would be that, an image. It wouldn't be who I am. And so why be liked for something that I'm not? And so you're in this dilemma and you don't know how to get out. And now that I've been on this road of self-discovery and going about my own path, I have completely forgot how it was to feel like there's something that I want that is outside of me. And I just got reminded of that a couple of days ago, and then I remembered, yes, this is a problem. Yes, this is something so many of us go through. And until you reach a point where you're completely on your own path, you don't recognize what to do. Because now I have all of those things I wanted. I have a great relationship. I have an occupation that fulfills me. I'm financially secure. My friends are awesome. And I get to talk to people who want to know about my thoughts, who want to share those experiences with me. And those people are you. All those emotions I always wanted, they exist. They exist right now. I feel alive every single day. And I remember how it was back then when I was living by those old rules where I always felt like, oh, happiness is somewhere outside of me. This is never going to happen for me. But the interesting part is it looks completely different than what I thought it had to look like. Remember, I thought I had to play by the rules of society from an extroverted feeling standpoint, to play the rules of an atmosphere. Those were rules I had to obey. And I actually tried that. I tried it so often. And every single time I tried, I always recognized, well, this doesn't feel like how I wanted it to feel like. Remember, like if we watch Suits or any kind of show like this and we feel, oh, this is going to be so exciting. See, that's how I felt when I was younger. I always thought like, oh, like the corporate jobs, this is like this exciting atmosphere. And then once I was in the real world in those corporate jobs, it was gray walls, it was gray desks, it was boring, and it was cold. It had absolutely nothing to do with that emotional atmosphere we are being presented to over and over again. So there's this phrase that goes around Instagram, and I've read it so many times, and it says something like, I want to be on my path. I want to just care about my own lane, not care about what others are doing, and just enjoy this. And I never really understood it. I'm being honest with you. I really didn't understand it because I said, well, what is that all about? Why would somebody want this? Or isn't this what we all do? But now that I am in my own lane, I now recognize what this is all about. And this was not a choice of mine. Because we as INFJs, if we're so aware of that emotional atmosphere and we feel like that's the ideal, that's what we're gonna be accepted for. If you feel like, oh, I can't be that esoteric side of me, or you feel like I can't be a stronger version of me because then I'm not going to fit in. Absolutely everything that makes you stand out and be outside of the box, that is what we're so afraid of. And so for me, it really was that I was firstly pushed outside of that. I was at a point where I just had to fight back and I had to show my true colors. And my true colors, of course, don't represent what this emotional atmosphere looks like. Of course not. I'm a human being in the real world, just as a real corporate job has absolutely nothing to do with what you see in Suits or any shows like that that are similar to this. But once I started this process, I recognized more and more that I have to embrace the fact that I feel like an outsider, because being an outsider is not so much that you're different than the people around you. Yes, you might be, but the feeling that really causes that is because you feel you're not like what this atmosphere would want from you. But neither of us are. And the sooner you recognize that, yes, I am an outsider, I'm not pretending to be that. I'm not playing by those rules. I'm playing outside of the box. And a lot of INFJs feel like they're already doing that, but we're doing it in our head. We don't dare to actually show it and then be open and willing to be judged for it. Be honest with yourself, because I myself get to overcome blocks like this over and over again. This is not a one-time thing. So every single time I get to show another part of me, I more and more become an outsider. I become more of an outsider of what society would want from me. But remember, when I say what society wants of me, that is a construct of everything that we believe we have to be. It has absolutely nothing to do with the real world. And once I accepted this about myself, I started to show those parts of me that I was afraid others would see and they would judge me for it. Where I felt like, okay, I'm not gonna get that job, or people are not gonna find me cool anymore. I actually showed that more esoteric part of me. I actually showed that stronger part of me. I showed that I care about deep topics, and I didn't do it just sporadically when I thought that's a person who would understand, and then I open up and they wouldn't come back to me. Those are things we do over and over again because we still want somebody else to recognize that we're different, but we're still trying to play that part in that emotional atmosphere. That has to stop. You have to get to a point where you feel like every single person that comes into my life sees me as this imperfect version, sees me as all of those parts combined. Because as long as you're holding something back because you feel people are judging you, then you're not living out as authentically as you could. And life will never feel fulfilling, life will never feel full, and you'll never feel like you're growing at the best of your capacity. Remember, as I said, this is a step-by-step process. Every single time I get to overcome one more layer. I get to show up more as a person that I am. And the more I do that, the further I get away from this image that I thought I had to be. But at the same time, all of those things I always wanted, they're happening right now. They create those emotions for me that I always wanted. But in reality, it looks completely different than I thought how it had to look like. So accept the fact that you've always been an outsider, you're always going to be an outsider, but take the story out of it. This is not something that has to make you feel lonely, not at all. Because the more you show up at this and you allow people to judge you, and you build this inner strength that doesn't care if people love you or people hate you, because you know that none of this has anything to do with you. You do, and you live, and you show up in a way that represents you more and more. And then people will judge you. The people who see that you're different than them and they don't like the version that you really are, they will distance themselves from you. And that's a good thing. Why be friends with people who only like you for who they think you are? Once you show more of your true colors, you allow people to judge you. You allow them to make decisions about you. It has nothing to do with you. And through that, you build that self-confidence. And then at the same time, there will be people who see you for the first time and who connect with you because you show those true colors, which before they would have never seen, they would have never been able to detect, and they would have never been able to create a connection with you. But only through showing up, only through allowing everybody to see that you're an outsider, you'll see that you'll diminish being lonely altogether. But don't get it twisted. Don't feel like, okay, I'm doing this once or twice and then I see people don't like me, so I go back into my shell. That again is saying I'm living by those rules. I'm not stepping out of the norm. Stepping out of the norm is about understanding that from now on, you'll never ever back off from that version of yourself. That version of yourself is non-negotiable, and people who don't like it can go away, but I'm sure as heck not hiding that part of me anymore. And you'll see how you connect in a way you never connected before. But it's not that you do that in order to get recognition. It's because you know that this is your truth. Guys, I've been doing this for a long time, and as well this channel, and I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in all the benefits this brings to us, specifically us INFJs. This is life-changing. You can live an epic life on your terms, and it can feel as amazing as you would want it to be. Just don't expect it to look like all the things you think you have to be. Remember, if you want to take the next step in creating your INFJ epic life, then work with me privately or sign up for the waiting list for the Epic Life Bootcamp. Pre-admission starts June 27th. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on INFJ Chameleon, because there we also talk about how we pretend to fit into those emotional atmospheres. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.